KSJE is supported by San Juan Regional Medical Center, which is officially baby-friendly. This evidence-based initiative is designed to support mother-baby bonding and optimal infant feeding practices by upholding the 10 steps to successful breastfeeding. San Juan Regional Medical Center, officially baby-friendly, and serving the Four Corners since 1910. Find out more online at sanjuanregional.com. Nine minutes past 8 o'clock. It is Friday morning, August 23rd. Good morning, everyone. I'm Scott Micklin. Thanks for tuning in to KSJE 90.9 FM in San Juan County and now 103.3 FM in the Durango area. We're glad you're with us this morning. Also, welcome to our viewers who are watching the program live from our visual radio studios on the KSJE YouTube channel and our Facebook page. Welcome aboard, everybody. Outside our studios here at San Juan College, it is 65 degrees in Farmington at the moment. We've got a sunny morning underway. We're expecting a mostly sunny morning and a mostly sunny afternoon, maybe some increasing clouds around the noon hour today, but so far so good. It is a mostly sunny morning as we take a look at the Animas and San Juan River valleys from our tower cam here at San Juan College. Weather forecast specifically calls for a high of 91 today, 57 tonight, sunny tomorrow with a high of 93, 95 on Sunday, and 96 with sunshine on Monday. Here's what's coming up this morning in the next few moments, so we're glad you're with us because we are celebrating Childhaven in San Juan County and their 50th anniversary this year. We'll have some great pictures to share with you, and we'll talk with Andrea Pena from the Childhaven Foundation as they get ready to celebrate their 50th anniversary with a big party coming up in the next couple of weeks. We'll give you details about that and much more coming up in the next few moments right here on KSJE. Then later on this hour, I will check in with Alan Elmore. I have sent him out to the Glade, and he is going to be there with a picture of us of what's going on in the Glade in advance of tomorrow's big cleanup effort out there. There is a lot of things to pick up out there. You might be surprised with what Alan will be showing us later on this morning, about 8:50, right here on KSJE. Next hour, of course, it's Roving with the Arts, and Mick Hess will be here. He is playing music of Peter Pan from the great Leonard Bernstein. That's coming up today at 9:06 on KSJE. So stick around for that. And then at noon, it is the Cop Shop with the Farmington Police Department. They'll be on the air at noon today. We hope you'll join us for that program today. Of course, you can listen at 90.9 FM or 103.3 FM or listen online at ksje.com or watch the program live on YouTube or on Facebook. Don't forget, 12:30, it's our storytelling program, Cuentos, Hana, and Tales today from the Farmington Public Library, produced in cooperation with our friends over there. That's today at 12:30 right here on KSJE. And check out all of our social media platforms so you don't miss a thing. Joining me here in our visual radio studios from the Childhaven Foundation, Andrea Pena is here, the new director of the Childhaven Foundation. I say new, but you've probably been doing this job for a while now, but welcome.
About a year. Thank you so much.
Happy anniversary, I guess,
Thank
right?
you, yes.
It's good to have you here.
It's great to be here.
And Childhaven is having an exciting year this year.
Yes, this is our 50th anniversary.
How did that happen? 50th anniversary.
I'm
Holy
sure
smokes.
for many people listening, time must have flown really quickly.
Right.
But yeah, 1969 was the first year the shelter opened. So
right. And it's been around for 50 years.
50 years.
That's amazing. And there's a lot of, I know, special people to thank for their vision for doing this 50 years ago and setting the wheels in motion, right?
Absolutely. So in the mid-60s, there was actually another shelter with San Juan Mission, and it closed, I want to say around 1965. So there were 2 to 3 years where there was no place for children who needed just like temporary care other than foster care or other types of care. Like Navajo Mission was here. I know they've helped kids for a long time. But the emergency shelter was needed because when parents may have been incarcerated or children were missing or runaways, the only place they could go was the police station or the police officer's car. So instead of them having a place to go when crimes were committed to them,
right,
they were going to a place where that's where people go when they commit
There
crimes.
are other criminals around,
and they
right.
weren't criminals.
Yeah.
So community members stepped up and started Childhaven. So this wasn't like a state-run facility, government-run facility. This was started by the community.
Right.
So
It's so amazing. And again, you hope to not to have a facility like this, but I mean, again, it's a reality that we need to have it. And so 50 years ago, folks were looking around and saying, this is our community. We want to take care of these children that are in this need, that have this need. And so they didn't wait for another agency to step in. They took it upon themselves,
They
right?
stepped up, and it was actually 1968 when the board was established. So they took about a year they had to find a building. So the building was called, I think, Skelly Oil.
Okay.
And it was donated, and the city and the county pitched in, and community members donated. So that was the first building.
Okay.
And I think we'll talk a little bit later about how it needed to be renovated.
Yes,
I think you have a picture of that.
But you sent me a couple articles, and so this is from the very first. This is supposed to be 50 years ago.
Yeah.
For folks who are watching, which is why we tell you to watch our visual radio program on Facebook or YouTube. But this is the article of the children's home to open today. So that was 1969.
Yeah. So July 27th, I think, is what that says.
Your eyesight is better than mine, but yes.
Yeah.
But there it is. So that was the early beginnings, right?
It was.
And it probably wasn't very big, I don't think, either.
I can't remember exactly how many kids they served in that first year. I think definitely over 100. But they didn't have as many beds as we do currently, and there were obviously not as much staff members.
Right.
They had volunteers coming in and helping out.
Sure.
They did have some, I believe, a couple, I think, that were they would reside there, I believe. I could be wrong on that. But they definitely depended on volunteers. And I've heard of people canning and doing those types of things to provide food for the kids in the shelter.
Sure. Right.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was 50 years ago.
50 years ago.
Everybody. And so, with that being said, you are deciding, and I think for good reason, to have a celebration.
Absolutely. So we are having our 50th anniversary celebration on September 7th. So it'll be from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Farmington Civic Center.
Okay.
And we're so excited about this. First of all, we have been putting together a mini documentary with Zia Media together. And that is going to be showing some of the ladies who founded Childhaven.
A lot more photos than what we're showing this morning,
Yes,
and
more.
a lot more information, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, those great stories.
Absolutely. And we have a client who we served, and just really, it's going to be a really powerful mini documentary.
Yeah.
And then one of our former clients, Lindsay Johnson, she is a public speaker here in the Farmington area. She will be sharing her story and how Childhaven impacted her. We'll have good food.
Nice.
It's just going to be a really fun night.
Very good. 6 to 8 p.m. at the Farmington Civic Center on September the 7th, and tickets are $50.
$50 for the 50th.
Okay. Makes sense to me. And a great party, and you're going to be showing some of this documentary?
Yes, so that's going to
evening?
be the premiere. We've also put together a commemorative booklet that will be, again, sharing the history and our impact.
Right.
So it's going to be a fun night, and it's an exciting thing for us to be sharing the impact that Childhaven has had on the community.
Definitely a lot of impact, and a lot of great stories from children who went to Childhaven and who feel comfortable sharing their stories, and who've gone on to, I think we'd all be surprised, because I know I've served on some boards with folks who have been children from Childhaven, and they serve on boards, and they've turned back around, I think even serving on the Childhaven board from time to time. And so, it's just amazing. And when we think about it, for a lot of these children, they take different paths, and so it's quite possible that without Childhaven, their lives could have been much, much different.
Absolutely. And, there's our interview program. It used to be called the Safe House program, but now it's called Forensic Interviews.
Yes.
That is helping find out what's happening to these children, and often they do need to be removed from their home, and that is difficult on that side of things, but that means that future abuse is stopping. So we are on the front lines with that type of stuff.
Exactly. And the idea, too, is hopefully if maybe mom and dad can get their act together, maybe the children can be reunited, but if not, there's foster care and other options for these children, too.
Exactly. So many parents in these situations don't want to be, especially if there is some type of addiction issue or anything like that. We actually have a program, a parent education program, that goes alongside parents. Obviously, the best place for that child is with their with their parents or with a family member. And so if we can help support those parents, or if abuse did happen, especially if it was in the home, if we can find a way to support that family, we want to do that, because at the end of the day, that's what's in the best interest of the child.
Right. But of course, as we talk about this program, and there's so many others too, in this ensuing 50 years, Childhaven really has expanded to help all these other angles from just being an emergency shelter for children in crisis.
Absolutely. So, of course, we started just as a shelter, and then in the 90s, they really started adding programs. So it was in the mid-90s that they've added the foster care and the ability to license parents, and they added what was, I think I mentioned, formerly called the Safe House program.
Right, that
now,
forensic interview.
They're now called forensic interviews. Our CASA program was also started.
Court-appointed special advocate that we're familiar with, right?
Yes,
exactly.
And the parent education program I mentioned. So,
right. So again, lots of different services and all these things, again, needed in the community.
Yes.
And supported through some, hopefully, state and grant funding and all different types of funding to put it all together to make it possible.
Absolutely. I was just talking to our shelter director yesterday. She's been there for over 25 years, and she was just sharing about how when she first started, these kids would come, they were temporarily staying there. Sometimes they would see the same children over and over.
Sure.
But there wasn't this ability to help them with their mental and emotional needs from the trauma they've experienced, and that additional support and the cost of volunteers to come alongside of them, that just wasn't there. So now we have a more rounded ability to help these children with more of their needs, and we work with different services here in the area with they call it multidisciplinary coordination.
Right.
And so we've
heard that term before.
Yes. Yeah, making sure that all the needs of the child are provided for, not just a warm bed and a warm meal, which we still provide that.
Because I'm sure it doesn't happen very often. When a child finds themselves having to go to an emergency shelter, it's not just that need that they have. There's probably a lot of other things going on in that home.
Oh, absolutely.
That these things can help with. And without them, that would be kind of lacking for the care of that child.
Absolutely, it would be.
And so, again, we have them here, which we're very grateful for.
Yeah, and a program that I haven't mentioned that we just added is a life skills coach. So the person in charge of that actually was a former client. She stayed in the shelter and was in our foster care program. And so she knows what it's like. And she went to Navajo Prep, was very successful academically, and I believe she's still taking college classes. So she's one of those success stories that was supported through our services. And she helps the children in the shelter and foster care, children in foster care here in the community, know how to do things like apply for a job when they're teenagers, or how are they going to go to college. So it's more like teenage children and up that she helps. But it's really important so that we can start preventing the homelessness that often comes from children that are in foster care. Right. So.
And I know for a lot of our listeners and viewers this morning, they may be hard to understand maybe why kids need these skills, because they were taught in the home from mom and dad, and so they had a very different childhood than some of the children that we're talking about, and that's what is lacking. And I think too, when we talk about foster parents, that a lot of parents and a lot of adults feel, well, I can't be a good foster parent because I maybe don't have children or what have you. But I think just the routine and just leading by example is a big plus for foster parents.
Oh, absolutely. So a lot of the children that come into the shelter specifically, many of them have experienced abuse, but it's often extreme neglect. So they have not been taught how to do their laundry, how to cook food. They often would probably just eat mostly like fast food instead of having home-cooked meals. So the children in the shelter do have chores, and they get allowance for their chores, which is really big for them to be able to have ownership of something.
Right,
and to learn those skills. And then the young lady...
And pride of maybe having their own room clean and ready to go kind of a thing, too. They have to make their bed, do their laundry. So that's huge, and we want to set them up for success. If they're with us for a night to a week to a month or even longer, we want to do what we can for the time that we have to set them up for success. Right. Andrea Pena is my guest this morning. She is the director of the Childhaven Foundation, and We are talking about Farmington's Childhaven, or San Juan County's Childhaven, I should say, because they are celebrating their 50th anniversary this year. Again, you have a big event coming up on in September.
Yep, September 7th.
And everybody can join you for a big party?
Absolutely. Tickets are available online on
Okay.
our website, childhavennm.org.
Okay.
Also on our Facebook page, or give us a call. Stop by our office. We'll get you your tickets if you're interested in them.
There you go. And it was 50 years ago that the first
years
emergency shelter opened, and that was the humble beginnings of what we now know today as Childhaven, which has so many kind of enveloping services for children and their families.
Right. Absolutely.
And so we talked a little bit about the expansion, but that was maybe in the late 70s, early 80s that there was the first expansion.
Yeah.
Right? For
Yeah.
one, and you sent me another photo that I want to
Yeah.
show everyone. But there is a picture, a newspaper picture, and of kind of the story from 1979,
Yep,
right?
1979. And from when they had that oil-filled building, there were just renovations that were needed. There were more beds that needed to be provided.
Well, the community was growing too, I think, too, right? Through all this time.
That's true. That's true. So that building, if anybody can picture in their mind where KFC is on East Main or
Right.
Webb Auto, that's
Right.
the area that it was in. So anyway, they did some fundraising to improve that building, and it carried them along for a little while longer.
Right. Now, that's the building I remember when I got here.
Oh, really?
In 1989. But then there was another building, then there was another expansion, and then we are now find us where you are now on Apache Street, correct?
Yeah, so the building on Apache Street was in part donated by some members of the community. The names I remember are the Ream family and the Webb family, and then also the city of Farmington.
Another great partnership,
Yeah,
right,
had a
to make that
partnership there.
possible.
So it's actually right next to one of the city of Farmington's parks, and they keep all the maintenance
Right.
of that park, and it's just beautiful. So
Brookhaven
East, I think, is what
East
it's
Park
called.
is
Yep.
the one. That's right,
Yep.
and outside your front door. But it makes it great for the kids, right, because they can go out
Yeah.
and have access to this park right
Yep,
across
and-
the sidewalk, literally.
Exactly, and even
Parking
in
lot.
their backyard, the Childhaven backyard, quote unquote, they take care of that too, which
Nice.
is amazing.
That's great.
Yeah.
But again, this then gave you Childhaven the space that you need for expansion and set up the rooms a little bit differently, so the boys and the girls and all that to continue doing the work that you're doing.
Yes, so there are 4 different hallways, so they're gender appropriate and age appropriate, and it also provided more beds, so we can have up to 32 children at a time. Normally we average about 15 to 20.
Okay.
So-
And I think this, correct me if I'm wrong, this was the first building built specifically for this purpose, right, to be the emergency shelter for Childhaven, correct?
It was built for, the purpose of it was for Childhaven.
Yeah.
So it is the city's building. They lease it to us, but
Okay.
it was with the idea of
But
it
not
being
something
for
you had to
Childhaven.
repurpose from some other
No,
use that it
nope,
was originally.
That's what it was
This is
built for. Yep. When
Yeah.
they had that property, there was nothing there, and they broke ground, I think, in 1994, I believe. So yeah, it's really, it just shows how much the community cares about Childhaven. And I think sometimes we can look at the issue of the abuse and the neglect that happens here in our community, but I think we can also look at it on a positive side of seeing how the community cares for that issue
Right.
and does something about it.
Sure. Because again, in your job, the Childhaven Foundation is specifically funded by community donations, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
your job, is to raise money from
Exactly.
the community to fill in the gaps, I suppose,
Yep.
for some of the Childhaven programs that maybe the grants or the state or local funding doesn't meet all the needs, right?
Right. So the reality of grants are, especially if they're from other private foundations, they are often limited in their time, and foundation grants are always looking for new and innovative ways, to improve your program. But if your program is working, and they're not going to fund you if you're not coming up with a new and innovative way,
Right.
that's an issue. So because we have so many programs, we need to and they're being they're so successful, we need to make sure that they continue on for another 50 years or many more. So the foundation is growing to support these programs, to give security to them, and the programs reach the lives of so many children. So I think I gave you some numbers.
You did. That's right.
So in our 50 years, we're doing some estimations, but we've served in the shelter over 6,000 children. And
Just think of that number for a minute,
Yeah.
everybody, and let that sink in. I mean,
Yep.
6,000 children through the doors of that shelter, and no
Yeah.
matter whatever building it was in over the past 50 years. That's
Right.
6,000 lives touched and changed.
Exactly.
And improved, we hope, for the better.
Exactly. And then I think the other number I gave you was about 170,000 nights of care. So the importance of the nights of care, that means those are nights for the meals provided and, to run electricity and all those types of things for kids. So that's a lot of nights of care.
Right. And again, before Childhaven, as you said, these children that were taken away from their parents because the parents were in trouble or whatever the case may be, they had to be placed in a police station and with a family member, I suppose, or who knows where, I guess, right? Until Childhaven Shelter came along.
Right, absolutely. And I still get people asking me what would happen if Childhaven wasn't here. Well, that's the thing. We have to be here because
Right.
there isn't a place for these kids to go. That's why they're there.
Unless there's suddenly no more abuse
Right.
and neglect of children, then you put yourselves out of
And
business.
we
And I know
would
you're working
love
really
that.
hard to do that.
We would love that.
Yeah.
If that was the case, I think all of us would be honored to lose our jobs.
Right, but we're not there yet.
We're not there yet.
Unfortunately.
Nope, not at all. And we also had to expand one of our programs, the forensic interview program we keep mentioning, that has expanded to Gallup. So we're reaching McKinley County now.
Nice. Well, again, because the need is there.
It's there.
And Childhaven is one of the better organizations in the state, I think, recognized by the state for the job that you do in providing this care to these families and these children.
Absolutely. So we are the only children's shelter of our type here in the state. And we also are accredited through a national organization to have a child advocacy center. So that is an honor, and that is such a good representation of our staff and the training that they have and the care that they have for the children to even have that here in our area.
Right. And I've always had a lot of respect for the work that you all do, the work that Erin does, your executive director,
Yes.
Erin Hurahan, who has been in that job for a number of years as well, but provided that leadership, I think, to do the expansion and
Absolutely.
and get this accreditation and recognition from across the state.
Absolutely. And to sustain it for the years that they have, it's quite the honor.
Right, exactly. And I wouldn't be doing my job as a board member of the United Way without mentioning that Childhaven's another great member agency with the San Juan United Way.
Right. And with United Way, again, just showing the community support that is given when people give through their paychecks. Even if it's a small amount, that amount makes a difference. And we're talking about programs, and I think it's important for people to realize these programs are directly touching the lives of children. Every day we have children sitting with therapists working through the issues that we have at our facilities. So when you're making your $20 per paycheck donation, you're impacting some of those types of things for us so that we can continue providing services.
It's really noticeable, I think, when we talk about this. And so when you can see what the work that Childhaven is doing, and again, you are getting ready to celebrate all of that 50 years and ongoing in September.
Absolutely.
With your event, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we really hope people come out for that, buy tickets for it. It is a fundraiser for the foundation, again, having the idea of continuing these services for many years. So we hope people keep on buying tickets for it.
Right. And I imagine there is a danger of this selling out, right? You only have so much room at the Civic Center.
We do. We need to know how many people to expect. So if you're thinking about coming, please purchase your tickets as soon as you can so that we know how to plan and we make sure we have enough room for everybody.
Right. We are less than a month away, everybody,
Yeah.
and so you need to probably know, and tickets probably will go quick. I hope.
Hopefully
Right?
so. That's our hope.
Exactly. How many are you expecting? How many are you ready for?
We would hope for about 150 to 200 people.
Okay, that's a
So,
good number.
Yeah,
So
that's what we hope to have.
I hope folks can get there and get their tickets. And can people buy like a table if they're a business?
If they would like to, we can
Are you
certainly.
wheeling and dealing? Are you-
I think we can talk about it.
Okay.
What we did was we have some sponsorships of it. If somebody contacts me within the next couple days, they want to do a sponsorship.
Okay.
We can probably
Work out a table
work
or
that out.
something.
Work
Yep.
something out.
Make sure you get dinner or something like that.
Something.
So that's great. Andrea Pena is here. She's from the Childhaven Foundation. And so with your 1-year anniversary of being on the job, tell me a little bit how it's been going for you and the work that you've done in this past year.
I'm so thankful to be part of this organization. I think when people hear development director, it's like, what is that? Or, doing fundraising, I think a lot of people are like, oh, I would never, ever want to do something like that. But for me, it's the impact that it has. Obviously, as I mentioned, these services need to happen, and it takes money to do that. In order to have qualified staff who will do an outstanding job. You have to pay them.
Right.
And you have to have lights and
utilities,
heat, utilities,
food,
yep,
right, diapers, all these
exactly,
things that,
yep.
that a child needs.
Yep. So it's necessary. So I respect Childhaven so much. I respect the staff there so much that it's really a privilege to be a part of the organization and to go out to the community and represent the things that are happening.
Right.
So.
And I imagine, too, when you hear the stories of the original shelter, and again, you showed us the pictures from 1979 when the shelter was built, and I'll show another picture here, the same one that we're talking about. But when you mentioned that the shelter was opened, the emergency shelter, the first Childhaven program here in San Juan County opened 50 years ago last month, and staffed with maybe volunteers, and today it's so very different with the qualified staff, and I'm sure a lot of folks were going, well, it was a different time, and I'm so glad we didn't have to have maybe qualified staff because we couldn't afford to do it back then.
Right.
But look how far we've come by having these folks in these positions that can then do even more good for these children.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And setting them up for success. And you mentioned that there have been clients who come back and tell their stories to us. There's also a lot of clients that we don't have connection to, but that's, for me, the way I look at it is we were a part of their journey. This
Right.
isn't like a school or something like that that's just a staple of your life. We're helping children heal, and if they have been able to heal and move on with their lives, then we accomplished our job. Our mission is lifting children from crisis to hope.
Mm-hmm.
So it's okay that we don't hear from all of those 6,000 children
Right.
because we were just a part of that journey.
Right.
So.
And it's understandable that some children may move on and prefer not to think about that part of their lives,
Absolutely.
but others, it maybe made a bigger difference or just decided to keep in touch and give back.
And we do have former clients stop by the shelter, and we've had some of the same staff there for over 20 years. I think I mentioned the director earlier,
Yes.
but there's some other, we call them youth advocates or supervisors who've been there for a long time. So it's good for them to come back and see those ladies still that have been there for so long.
That's wonderful. And so Childhaven really services San Juan County. You mentioned you've expanded into McKinley County with a few programs as well. Is that pretty much the scope of the Childhaven programs?
Well, we do have children come from other parts of the state, or maybe if they're part of a tribe in Arizona or something like that, we do get children from other states, I'll say, mostly from our county, but we do get kids. I remember we had one from Roswell in December, so
you never know.
You never know.
I guess
Yeah.
that's what you're
and
saying.
we never know
That's
somebody could be coming in another hour. You never know.
Well, right. And again, this is a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week commitment to the community. You are the emergency shelter for sure. You are open on Christmas, you are open on New Year's, you're open on all the holidays because you never know when there's going to be a knock on the door with a child who needs help.
Absolutely. And it is temporary care. So while the children are there, social workers, or if there's an investigation happening, the necessary people are finding out the best placement for the child. So they are contacting family members, and obviously that requires different types of background checks and all that type of stuff, or looking for foster homes. So we're the temporary placement. We do not remove children from homes. That's not our role.
Sure.
Our role is a place for them to go, well, the necessary authorities are finding out the best place for them.
Right. And that's an important distinction, I think, too, is that a lot of folks may think that you're involved with, Childhaven is involved with some of these decisions, and really you're not. You serve at the beck and call of the law enforcement and the judicial folks who may need a place for these children, again, temporarily, while they sort out kind of what's going on at home and what the situation is. And that's what you do. But you serve, again, at the emergency shelter that folks I know are most familiar with. Those are kids, you get them from birth to 18?
Yep, absolutely. So, and we have a little one in our shelter now, so a little baby. So we do get those babies, and we had to do a little Facebook call to the community for diapers this summer, and we had a great response. So thank you for that. But yep, we serve babies all the way through 18-year-olds. So.
Okay, and again, so you have to be ready for those kids because sometimes they show up with just the clothes on their backs. Or diapers on their butts or whatever they're wearing when they're removed from those places, right? So you need you need to have clothes and diapers, and if a school-age kid is there, maybe backpacks or all these types of things that we don't even think about maybe.
Right, so children either come with nothing or maybe like a Walmart bag of
Something.
Or of something.
Little
Yeah,
something.
just like
Yeah.
a grocery store bag of something. So we obviously need to provide them with clothing. A lot of these kids just need a sense of ownership. So to even own some toys is a huge thing. So we are so thankful for all of the community donations. And actually, the college this last year built a donation bin for us with the welding
thank you,
department.
Sam, on college.
Yes, the
Yes.
welding department.
Nice.
And we were able to pay for it with the grant that we had. They did an outstanding job, and that's been a helpful thing for people who just want to drop by some children's clothing or used toys, and we just ask for those toys to be in good condition.
So this is right near the shelter where we
Right,
can
yep.
drop these things off, right?
Yeah, right. It's on the north side of the shelter, so they can just bring them by, and we're able to get those things connected to the community.
Nice. And again, these things that these children get, they keep, right? It's not like
Yeah.
once they leave the shelter, they have to give them back,
No.
because that would be silly.
Right. We want to make sure that they have, like I said, something that they can feel like they own, have ownership over. So we love giving them board games and different types of toys that are age appropriate for them.
Of course. And I imagine for a lot of these children, maybe they've never had a toy of their own before. It's maybe been a hand-me-down from Big Brother or Big Sister, or the clothes have been hand-me-downs. And so to get something that's relatively new or brand new and something that they have and it's theirs, got to be a
Yes.
game changer for some of these children.
Absolutely. And recently I've had people asking me, like, what kind of new clothes for school can we get them? The best thing that people can do is actually, if they can get us a gift card from a store in the mall or Walmart, if they really want to do that, because we get to take the kids out shopping and they get to choose
Wow.
what clothes they want.
Right.
So
Maybe for the first time
Right.
doing that.
Right. Yep. So that's quite the honor. So if that's something people think of, it can be a $10 to $20 gift card.
Okay.
That's a great way to help those kids out.
Good to know, but that's great. But clothes are okay too. If
Yep.
you've got some new
If you have
clothes or
new or used clothes in good condition, yeah, please bring them by.
all that will work.
Yeah.
And I know you've been asking for volunteers to help provide some meals at the shelter. Is that
Yes.
still something that you are doing?
So a great way for people to help out is actually bringing by some frozen casseroles.
Okay.
So I want to talk about the parent education class that I mentioned.
Right.
So that class has been so successful. I believe the percentage we got from CYFD was that 94% of the parents enrolled in that class did not have a repeat case of maltreatment last year.
That's pretty good.
That's huge.
Yeah, right.
So we're teaching them different ways to interact with their children, when things elevate, how to bring that down with their kids. So in order for us to help that program be successful, we actually provide food to those families, and we provide childcare so that there's no and transportation actually, so that there's no reason for them not to come.
Right.
So the casseroles are used on Tuesday nights.
Okay.
So we need to stock up our freezer again with those. So if you're at Sam's Club and you see frozen lasagna, if you just want to pick one up and drop it by the shelter, that helps us in such
There
a
you go.
huge
Because
way.
you're feeding how many people? How big are these things?
I think it gets up to like 30 people.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah,
So that's a lot of casserole.
They said they usually have to do 3 pans a night,
Okay.
Tuesday night.
Sure.
So
But very good. And that's important too, because sometimes when we talk about child neglect and abuse, it's cyclical. I mean, maybe
Yep.
parents had the same thing and then that happens to their children or what have you. And so to
Yeah.
break that cycle, this class, I would assume, can help to do that.
absolutely, you do what you know, right? So if those parents experienced abuse and neglect, that's what they know.
Right.
And
Maybe they don't
that's-
think it's abuse or neglect. They just think,
Right.
well, that's how I grew up, so what's
right,
wrong?
and
Yeah.
they turned out okay or whatever.
Yeah.
But no, it's very important for them to get together and even just to be in that class among other parents, to talk about different methods that they've been doing and to learn from each other in a positive way is, I think, one reason why that's been so successful.
Right. Well, it sounds like it's a great thing. And again,
is.
we're so grateful for Childhaven for being here for 50 years, which is why you're celebrating next month with your big event coming up, the 50th anniversary of Childhaven, everybody. September 7th, 6 to 8 p.m. at the Farmington Civic Center. Again, tickets are available right now for $50 for 50 years. And again, it is helping Childhaven be ready for the next 50 years, because who knows what that's going to bring.
Right. One thing I also respect about the organization is that we don't just accept where we are and we are doing good, but we want to evaluate our programs. Are they the most successful? Are they doing the best for the children in our community? So if growth is necessary, then we're going to take that on.
Right.
So
And you want to be ready to do that.
we do.
No matter what form it takes, I suppose, too, right? If we
Yeah.
need to. So that's
Right.
important.
And that's the importance of the foundation, is to provide that support for what's needed. So.
Very true. Well, it'll be here before we know it. Andrea Pena, I'm so glad that you came in to talk to me today about all the great things Childhaven does for the past 50 years and the next 50 as well.
Yep. Thank you, Sky. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming in. Andrea Pena from the Childhaven Foundation, my guest here on KSJE.
Hi, I'm Brett Barry, the host of Soundbeat. Every episode features a recording from Belfer Audio Archive, one of the largest sound archives in the country.